All right, Ronak Patel, welcome to the Breaking and Entering podcast. This is our brand side version of the show. We have multiple segments, but the goal of this is to get interesting marketing side, brand side folks on the show, talk about their experience, how they broke in, and what that world looks like. Because I'm kind of tired talking to all these agency folks. Just kidding. I still love them, but I'm excited to have you on. How are you doing today, Ronak?
Thanks for having me, Geno. I'm doing well. Dialing in from New York City. We are in a busy WeWork situation. So there's a lot of brands that are up and coming, some that are still in stealth mode. So it's always fun being surrounded by a bunch of marketers and picking brains, but excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for this conversation. I want to make sure that we get right into the good stuff, Ronak. So tell us about your role at MoonBrew. What do you do there?
Let's do it. MoonBrew, which was formerly NoonBrew, and we'll get into that later here as well.
Formerly NoonBrew.
Yes, formerly NoonBrew. Just switch the N with the M. So here at MoonBrew, I run the marketing function for a sleep aid brand. The core unique value prop of MoonBrew is we offer a non-melatonin, natural ingredient-based sleep supplement with a patented magnesium blend. So the magnesium formula just offers a lot of benefits. So we also have 13 other superfoods for a total of 14 superfoods in our formula. It helps people fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. I've used to take melatonin religiously, would always wake up groggy.
Yeah, I took some last night actually in preparation for this, and I'm a little groggy, so I had to do an extra cup of coffee, and I wanted to see. So now, yeah, I need extra coffee today. This is not a paid endorsement. I'm just telling the truth here. So, is there issues with melatonin?
I mean, there's right. So, what's actually the most shocking is there was recently studies released, and Johns Hopkins was the one that we anchored on, where the melatonin industry in the U.S. isn't FDA regulated as thoroughly as it is in the EU and countries in Asia. Where actually in the EU and countries in Asia, melatonin is actually a prescribed supplement that you have to get.
Right.
In the US, it's over the counter. As a result, your melatonin dosages, what this study showed, could be anywhere from 50 to like 300, 350% off. So one night you might be taking a gummy that you think's 2 milligrams of melatonin, but the next gummy you take the next night might be 3.5, might be 4. So it's just inconsistent. Your body's already naturally producing the melatonin hormone. You don't need to be injecting more of it. And what we found out is there's other natural ingredients like magnesium, especially.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
People fall asleep. And the magnesium wave right now is skyrocketing, right?
Yeah, it's big time on socials.
We got lucky when we launched MoonBrew officially in 2020, in the fall of 2022, and kind of rode that wave. And we saw the success of our MoonBrew product at the time when we were actually NoonBrew, and we were a daytime energy brand to try to trump coffee and the high caffeinated beverages like Celsius. Our MoonBrew product started picking up steam. We looked at the data, we did the analyses, and as a marketer, I was like, look, it's our CACs, our CPMs for NoonBrew are just they're too high to compete, and we're not going to become a profitable business if we stay like this. So I made the decision actually February 1st of 2024, vividly remember it, shut down all of our NoonBrew ads on Meta, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, and our founders were like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Trust me on this one. Give me a week." And then actually for a week, it was spiky. The algorithms didn't like us shutting down all of our ads and re-uploading all MoonBrew ads. And there was that weekend going into February, like 7th or 8th, I was like, oh boy, if this doesn't work, I might not be employed here anymore. That Monday going into the office, all of our metrics just skyrocketed down. Our CACs were 30% lower. Our subscription rates are 25% higher. And we're just like, there's something here. And then since that moment, we were at a $5 million run rate. We've scaled it 3-4x, and we're continuing to hyper growth and scale.
Wow.
MoonBrew. And we officially transitioned, and now we're looking to rebrand as well. So any rebrand agencies out there would love to connect as well.
Incredible. I have chills. I mean, talk about the bravery and the guts to pull down all the ads and basically shift the whole structure and brand and business from energy to nighttime sleep aid, right? Is that what we're calling this?
Yeah, call it the magnesium sleep aid. the difference between melatonin is spot treatment, right? Like for jet lag, or if
Okay.
you know you've gotten bad sleep, you need to knock out the next day, you take melatonin. What MoonBrew and what we're trying to do here is we want to create a routine around our product, right? Like it's like the athletic greens for sleep, right?
Sure.
You take it every day. There's other health benefits. We have our formula helps with digestion. The magnesium blend helps you relax and decompress. Before MoonBrew, I was at McKinsey and did a lot of private equity work where the hours would fluctuate, but the work was fun. But there'd be stressful meetings in the morning, and I was just like, if only I had MoonBrew to like actually help me decompress at night, not worry about the meetings in the morning, get some good sleep. I'm not thinking about the meetings the next morning while I'm sleeping. I can actually then stay asleep, and then I'm waking up ready to take on the day.
And what is the ritual like? How do you prepare your moon brew? What time are you doing this? Do you have a routine? I'm assuming you do. So run me through that. What does that look like?
Right now, so since I've joined, we started with MoonBrew Rose, but we've launched MoonBrew Hot Cocoa and MoonBrew Sleepy Berry. I
Ooh.
personally like Sleepy Berry cold. I like Hot Cocoa high. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's talk about yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm from Chicago, big Bears fan.
Hey.
Episode, although
Yeah.
delayed by HBO for an hour, it did come on. So my MoonBrew was hitting early during the episode, but I usually take it around 8:39, eat dinner, maybe go for a walk, do something, and then I take my MoonBrew around 8:39, and then it usually takes an hour, hour and a half till I get to that point where like, oh boy, I'm ready to sleep. So during that hour, hour and a half, I either get some like small tasks done, whether it's cleaning the apartment, getting my laundry done, or reading a book, or getting some work done. And then once I'm like close my laptop down, it's 15, 20 minutes of just like laying in bed, and then I just graze into sleep. And then the biggest thing what I love about it is I stay asleep, right? Gone are the days where I wake up in the middle of the night or I need to like get up and then I can't fall back asleep. I'm just knocked out till what I've recently noticed after being on this product for 2-3 months now is I'm waking up 5-10 minutes before my alarm. Makes morning workouts way easier now that like I'm energized and I'm not groggy. So I've been loving it. And it's so that 8:30 till 7 a.m. I know that I'll get some great sleep.
Listen, I've been waking up so often in the middle of the night. Like this past night, I woke up at like 3:30 and I was on my phone for like 30 minutes and I sent out some response Snapchats at 4 a.m. and they're like, what do you like? And later they're like, what were you doing up at 4 a.m.? I'm like, I just couldn't sleep. And
that's what I love about this product, right? Like, and as a marketer, it's always fun to find angles to get people, right? Like recently, NBC released an article that 49% of Olympians, like the world's best athletes, are categorized as poor sleepers. And we've seen what's funny in looking at our data is we've seen orders from professional athletes in the MLB, NFL.
yeah,
They place MoonBrew orders at like 1:30 in the morning, at 2:45
right.
in the morning. They're probably awake before the next morning practice or something. They woke up in the middle of the night and they're scrolling on their phones, which we should also get better at, like putting those phones away.
Yeah.
That's a factor. But we'll see them and then we like shoot them a message or to their agent and they're like, that athlete just couldn't sleep. And like they saw your ad in the middle of the night, we're like, have to buy it, right? Like,
Yeah. Do the ads play in the middle of the night? Like that would be kind of smart too.
yeah, so broad segmented, but we've tried now recently like targeting, and happy to talk about how like my background at McKinsey and data and analytics helped me kind of change
Yeah.
the business and transform it in a way here.
Yeah, let's definitely get into that because that's super interesting. Like, how did you get to MoonBrew? What were you doing before? Because you're fairly young, and
Yeah,
I want to understand your career path. So take us to the beginning. Where'd you go to school? What'd you study?
definitely. I went to a school in Bloomington, Indiana called Indiana University. Go Hoosiers.
You.
Yep. Big Ten school. Majored in finance there. And classic route. I thought I was going to go into investment banking or
Yeah.
wealth management, and had a career moment where my freshman year, I cold called and got an internship opportunity for a serial entrepreneur in the Chicagoland area called Kevin Howard. And he had many projects going. I was, in a way, his de facto intern across all of his companies. But what resonated with me were his marketing teams, right? The way they collaborate, how the marketing function of his companies, how their offices were with the whiteboards and just like fun. And then I look at like the finance and accounting, like cubicles, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's boring. Like they're just sitting there all day grinding away in models, and this marketing team's like whiteboarding big ideas for their brands and stuff like that. And I was like, that was a moment where I was like, I think I want to get into marketing. How do I get there now? Talk to a lot of mentors, talk to a lot of even students that were a few years older than me getting into marketing roles. And an advice I got that was common amongst them is, if you want to break into marketing early in your career, you can go there directly, right? You can be at a large corporation called a McDonald's, a Coca-Cola, Pepsi of the world, and join their marketing functions. Or you can go this consulting route, do a broad range of projects across industries. And when I was at McKinsey, I served construction companies, healthcare companies, CPG companies, and I'll talk about how serving CPG companies got me where I was today.
Makes sense.
But the consulting background helps you like build that analytical toolkit, helps you understand how to do projects quickly in a structured and efficient way. And that was the structure and processes weren't something that we really had when I first joined, as I was the first hire after our founders raised a pre-seed investment. That was a lot of fun just setting that up here. And the stuff that we have today is stuff that I established when I first joined almost a year ago. The advice to go into consulting, I took that. And that was after I interned actually at McDonald's corporate. Loved working at McDonald's corporate. I was on their finance and strategy team. But the one thing I noticed at McDonald's corporate was I love what the marketing interns are doing.
Right.
Like I want to be in those conversations. I want to be talking about brand partnerships and how to market one of the most iconic brands in the world, the Golden Arches. So I was like, let me get through this consulting sprint, right? Whether it's 2 years, 3 years, maybe I stay 4 or 5. I'm very big on just letting life take me as it goes. I thought I was in that wrong mentality of like, I'm going to do this for 2 years and then I'm going to do this for 5 years and then I might get an MBA or whatever. And then I'll do this. That was just stressing me out. Not the right way to approach, I think, life in my personal view. I was just like, just go as it flows. And when I got to McKinsey, I first started in the healthcare industry, did some industrials and construction, really built my analytical skill set there, right? Just like modeling skills, looking at data that might be messy and cleaning it up to get some insights that you can drive. What was really important is the so what. What's the why? What's the so what behind what you're analyzing? You're not just analyzing something to share it to someone. You have to analyze it and then be able to present it to a client being like, these are the takeaways from what we're analyzing. Then you problem solve that with partners, senior partners who have been doing this for decades. And then you really learn quickly in that environment. And then I got lucky working with a great group of leaders at McKinsey in the CPG private equity space. And there we were serving large CPG brands, large private equity firms. And there we were just looking at small CPG brands that either might be like, what's their market potential? And what got me excited doing that was I was always, whenever we served a client and we were looking at CPG brands that were smaller, call it less than 500 million in revenue, my first instinct was, how did they start? Right? Like, what's the founder story? How did they even how did they make their first million to now being a 500 million brand that's that's an attractive target for these large CPG players to add to their portfolio of a bunch of iconic brands? And that's where I realized a lot of the growth these CPG brands came with their initial marketing strategies, right? And now I'm going to list clients that we didn't serve, but like that I've been doing since I've left McKinsey. Is like, I look at the emergence of like Celsius that I have in my hand today. I look at the emergence of brands like Olipop and like Poppy and like how they started, and even like brands like Skinny Pop and like King's Hawaiian, right? Like, how did these CPG brands like start, and like what were their marketing unlocks that really let them scale? And that's what I'm kind of applying here to MoonBrew now that I run marketing.
Incredible. How'd you get into McKinsey? Because that's how'd you break into that? I don't know that world. Yeah. So just like high level, was that the networking and like the business fraternities that you had at IU that kind of like led to that? Or was there a specific like preparation process? Don't they ask you like these crazy questions like how many ping pong balls can fit in a school bus? How many windows are there in New York City?
I'd say like, but those questions are a great way to think about how case interviews in general at consulting firms go. Yeah. But I'd say the case interviews with all the consulting firms are recruited at we're more like business oriented, right? Like, and so the preparation aspect, there was the networking and then the case prep.
Got
My
it.
biggest advice that I give to all my mentees for the networking aspect is quantity over quality, or sorry, quality over quantity.
Okay, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you got this
yeah.
is interesting. Okay, no, but the
Quality over
quality.
quantity,
Yep, yep,
right? And what
yeah.
I always tell my
Specialize in your
mentees is 2 to
networking.
3 people
Yeah,
at each firm that you're interested in. Start those conversations when you're a sophomore, junior. Build those relationships, right? Like
strong.
the number one advice I like to give people is my junior year, I went 0 for 8 on consulting interviews. No offers, straight rejection, even make it past the first round for a lot of the firms. And I was like, consulting might not be for me, but it was continuing to build those relationships with the 2 to 3 people at each firm that were like, no, stick with it. Like, just work on your case prep. And that's what changed my mentality going into senior year is like, I need to be a lot better of a caser. And then the essence, it's, are you a good problem solver, right? Like, if you have a structured approach to solving the problem of how many ping pong balls can fit in a plane or how many windows are there in New York City, like, those are like that thought process and structure behind how you solve a problem can be used when you're solving big problems for businesses, right? And it's the way of how do you approach the data you have, the sources of data you're
Mhm.
getting, and like how can you create that to create a so what or why or an answer. And
So to
focus
recap,
on that. Yeah.
you uh start early, identify the key players that you could potentially work for in consulting, and then start early. And then there should be a shift. Then your junior year, start focusing on your case like development in your skills and those questions. Is
And I
that the
feel
right?
like internship recruiting and full time is only getting earlier, Gino, right? Like now I
Yeah,
feel like firms like the big consulting firms, whether it's like Deloitte or McKinsey, Bain, BCG, like they're recruiting now like earlier and earlier,
it's
right? So like
crazy.
when
Yeah,
August, September might be the timeline people think when I get to campus, and that's what my mentality was junior year. I'll get to campus, then start preparing for case. I want to enjoy my summer. Now firms are recruiting in July, right? Like so like you have to do that preparation even maybe like at the end of the semester prior.
I know.
And like that's like staying engaged with your older peers that got the offers and talking to them about how they prepared and like what they did and picking their brain. And then just like changing your mindset of like I have to do it, right? Like it's not something that's going to come natural to me. So for some it might. But for many you have to prepare for it and just be ready for it like you would any
You
interview.
know what I hate to say, but I do say it, I preach this often, is it does help to know what you want to do earlier.
Yes.
And like people say, try new things, like take a bunch of classes. I've heard this advice a lot in college, but I kind of want to be preaching against that. Like your job, your freshman, and like as soon as possible, you should be able to land a category and narrow that down as fast as possible. Because even if it's wrong, you're still breaking into consulting or you're breaking into an ad agency, and then you can pivot from there. But
Exactly.
like I say, pick something that's best
But, like,
suits who
that's
you
what you
are.
gotta do, right? Like, if you don't, and I know it's tough, but like, let's say like I came in as a finance manager and I only joined the finance club, I only joined the wealth management club, and then I like only worked at small like banks or something during the summers. Now my resume, all of college is screaming finance, 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 right? Like, and then if I get to senior year and I want to say I want to join marketing at X company or I want to join an ad agency, they're like, what marketing stuff did he do, right? And like,
Yeah, but then at least you get a job in that sector or in that specific role in banking, and then you can potentially switch. Like if it's like what you did, like but it was more adjacent to consulting.
well, that's what I would say is like where the difference though is in consulting though. What I liked about consulting is you don't need to know what you want to do after.
Right. And that's where the agency landscape is very
Yeah,
similar, right?
exactly.
And then consulting. So if you're not as sure, maybe you
Yeah.
should look into consulting or maybe you should look into breaking into an agency and then you can niche from there. I'm not sure what the other industries like what the similarities are like I'm sure there's
I
consulting in
think
every industry.
maybe only which it's probably the hardest to break into straight out of undergrad is maybe private equity. And then you
Damn.
could like go into marketing for a portfolio company or for a small brand and
Yeah.
prove that you have the rigor, like high horsepower analytical skills.
But yeah,
But, like that's tough, right? Like, and
you can always
many,
you can also
yeah,
get an MBA like if
yeah,
but But I like this strategy of, if you want to break into marketing, consider like on the brand side, and you don't want to go to MBA, potentially look into consulting for your first gig. And that's something that if I wasn't on the agency side and the creative side, quote unquote, the consulting would be the route that I wish I would have entertained as well. Like that, I could see that would be the only parallel in my life.
My biggest advice to like undergraduates that might be listening to this is I got recruited to MoonBrew via headhunter, right?
Yeah.
And I'm helping a lot of my mentees today that are either recently graduated and now they're at their year or 2-year mark. And a lot of them may have gone straight to a large corporation and worked in their finance function or worked in their marketing function. And they want to do startups now, or they want to do, but a startup that likely has pre-seed investments or Series A, B, C investments, they're going the headhunter route. And the headhunters are likely, their talent pools are coming from consulting firms, or coming from ad agencies, right? Like they because that's just what they've historically, the industry's like. It sucks. And like, I get the people that are like, I've applied everywhere, like I've done X, Y, Z, and like, it just isn't working. Like, that's why, like, I was like, if you do something like consulting or a large ad agency that has a brand name, then you have likely, in my personal view, a higher chance to get to a smaller brand that like you want to run the marketing function. And looking at just like talking to headhunters when I was recruiting, like that seems to be their main pipeline of talent that they pull from.
Makes sense.
Or post MBA, right? But then it's like, do you want to like, do you have the ability to financially commit to that, stuff like that? That could be a route as well.
Listen, I'm not afraid to give a little bit more direct advice. It's a little bit more opinionated. And I think this is like a fair blueprint. And until I get proven wrong, and there's, that's why we do multiple interviews. So if this resonates with somebody and they're like, okay, this is the route I want to take, then go for it. I think they should follow it.
Like not like there's no playbook for this, right? Like
no.
The route like might work for some, but then for like, there's great marketers in the industry that have stayed, like they were maybe they're marketing for Procter & Gamble, they're marketing for Johnson & Johnson or Pepsi, like these large brands.
They stay within. Or
and
they go agency side and switch over.
And then they're hopping horizontally, right? That's a way different route than I took. And then there's the folks that might join a startup right out of undergrad and like, and that's a factor of luck too. Like all of these routes have luck as a component, right? Like you have to be in the right place at the right time. Like MoonBrew just happened to be hiring right when I was looking to pivot and leave consulting, right? Like if I was a year out of undergrad, like if I was a year younger, they would have hired someone a year 2, 3 years above me right now. And like, because they were looking for a marketer a year ago. Right. And like in my point in my career, I wouldn't have been ready to pivot. Or I probably wouldn't have been an attractive candidate for them to hire with only 1 year of post grad experience. So then like it's luck's a component too. But if you in my view, like you only need to get lucky once. You might get unlucky 10 times, but the one time you're lucky, right, that could change your career.
I love it. Listen, I could talk with you all day. And I know we will. We're going to stay in touch because I know you're looking for some agency help too. So I've got some connections and want to make sure I help you out. And my last question really is, how can people reach out, learn more about MoonBrew, where can they find you if they want to have conversations, they want to maybe help your mission out here? What's the best way to do that?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Ronak Patel, MoonBrew, if you look for me on LinkedIn, you'll find me. People can email me or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love responding. Right now, like my inbox is hopefully after this podcast will be flooded with branding agencies looking to partner with us. But anyone that's aspiring to break into advertising or marketing, I'm more than happy to take an informational call. I love mentoring others and I love helping people out. So always happy to reach out.
You're good at it. You're really good at it. Maybe we'll have you on the podcast more often as like a recurring thing because it's really fun. Yeah. Cool, Ronak. Well, thank you for your time. I'm excited for you and your future at MoonBrew, and you guys are going to take off even more so. I'm very confident.
Love it. To the moon we go.
That's right.